Welcome to Tour Tuesday, everybody. It's so good to see you again. This is a very exciting Tour Tuesday. We've got lots and lots of you. Haven't seen you in a month, so it's been a while. Let's see, we've got lots of tour directors here today. Everybody wants to learn about Maine, and that's what we're going to be talking about, the state of Maine and our 4 fabulous vacations to the state of Maine. I see Betty Barr is here. Wave, Betty. Evie Simon is here. Excellent. Jean Gray is
Hi.
here. Christine Durling is here. And Lucille George is on. I don't see her face. So eventually I think we'll be able to see her or some more of us. And then we've got a special guest who I will introduce very soon. So we had a really good, successful Biltmore Blooms trip that went last week or came back last week. Everybody loved the Biltmore estate. And the festival that they have there called Biltmore Blooms. And then Penny left on Monday with a busload of folks going to see Savannah and Charleston. So lots of tours starting up again. We're super busy in the office. In fact, if you call and we don't answer, it just means we're all on the phone. Leave a message and we will call you back. We promise. It's just that time of the year where we've got lots of stuff going on, and we're still rebuilding our staff from the pandemic. So we're hiring a new travel advisor. So I've got that ad running, and we're here to do the best that we can for you. So just please be patient with us, because the good news is we're busy and people want to travel again, and we've got lots of tours for people to go on. So I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to share my screen. And like I said, we're here to talk about the beautiful, fabulous, lovely state of Maine. And we have a special guest that I would like to introduce. I would like to introduce Nancy Bloch. She is the owner of NDB Enterprises, her own company, and she has been planning Starr's Maine trips for a really long time. Maybe you know the answer to that, how many years, Nancy, but a really long time. And not only does she plan them, but oftentimes you will meet her on a Maine trip because she is our local expert guide. So Nancy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So first of all, I want to thank you for asking me to be here tonight. And it's great to see many of you that I know. And so I'm looking forward to a great season. Well, as you can kind of read in the little blurb, I have spent some time in Philadelphia back in the 80s. And then I had taken a few trips to Maine, to some different places in Maine, and just fell in love with its beauty. It's overwhelming, and I never cease to take it for granted. So I decided, gee, this is such a great place. Other people should see this. Other people should be able to enjoy the views and the things to do and everything. So I started by organizing these sails just for the day on the schooner that I had been on many, many times. And then slowly that kind of changed into doing some step-on guiding and so forth and blah, 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 blah. And now I've been putting tours together with Starr and really enjoy that a lot. And yes, I would say I'm on each tour for at least part of the time. And I just love meeting people. And I know several of you have come back again. That's always fun. And there's always more of Maine to see. It's a big state.
It is, which is why we have 4 different trips to see Maine. We could probably even have more because everybody loves to visit Maine. Let's see if I can open that. All right. So our first trip that we're going to talk about today is, hold on one second. Let me just let these folks in. Ogunquit, Maine in the springtime. And this trip actually goes next week. So you're probably not going to be surprised, but it is sold out. Certainly, if you want to go, you can call and get on the wait list. However, we are offering this tour next year. So you'll be the first to learn about it for next year. And if you're interested, as soon as we have it ready, or even now, you can call and get on the list, and we can call you as soon as this trip is ready for 2023. We are planning to put together the same exact trip. So what Nancy will tell you applies to not only this year, but next year as well. This is a 4-day trip. 3 nights. It includes 6 meals, and you can see the pricing there. And I'm going to let Nancy take it from here because she's the expert.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So the first day is on the road. And what I like to say is that, Maine is really not that far away from where you folks live. You may think it's way, way up, like in Canada. And it's not. One way to think of where Maine starts is we're just about an hour north of the city of Boston. So we're not that far. You leave home in the morning and you're in Ogunquit with time to relax a little and have dinner. So the Meadowmere Resort is where this tour will stay for all 3 nights. It's in the town of Ogunquit. Ogunquit is a Native American term, and it has been translated to mean beautiful place by the sea. And it is just that. It is a beautiful place right on the water. And, Maine is known for having many, many miles of rocky, rugged coastline. A lot of people don't realize that we also have some really nice beaches. In fact, Ogunquit is one of those places with a nice white sandy beach and 3 miles of it. It stretches a long way. So it's a wonderful town. It's walkable. It's scenic. So you arrive to a welcome wine and cheese, and then dinner is right next door. So it's a separate establishment, Jonathan's Restaurant. So it's just a short walk from one place over to the other. And Jonathan's is really a very special place that we have here in Maine. Jonathan West, who's the owner, he's had the restaurant since 1976, and the restaurant is actually in the building that was his parents' home. He's obviously changed it around a lot, but that's where he grew up, right there. And he's very hands-on. He has a farm, so they raise a lot of the vegetables and so forth, and the fish, and he just gets his hands dirty and jumps right in. So that, and it's a lovely place.
That sounds
also
great. I never knew that about that restaurant.
That's Jonathan.
Do we get to meet him?
Very possibly. He's on site an awful lot.
Cool.
And his daughter works, his daughter works there. His wife, I'm not sure what her capacity is, but she works in some capacity there. Excellent. And then the second floor of the restaurant, they hold shows. They have different, musical performances or comedians or whatever. So it's a busy place.
Sounds great.
So after dinner, go to the hotel and have a wonderful night's sleep. The property, I can tell you, is nice. There's indoor pool, outdoor pool. I don't know if it's going to be that warm next week for outdoor. Probably not. But we're really only about, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks behind your area in terms of things turning warm, flowers blossoming. So like the daffodils here are at their prime right now. And I understand that where you folks are, they've pretty much gone by. Yeah. So now we have the azaleas opening up, and spring has sprung for Scythia all over the place. So it's really starting to look beautiful again, as it always does. Okay, day 2. So back to Jonathan's for breakfast. All the breakfast will be right there at Jonathan's. Then travel a short ways to a little neighborhood, I guess you can call it a neighborhood of of Ogunquit. It's called Perkins Cove. Very, very picturesque, quintessential Maine. And board a lobster boat, working lobster boat that goes out and has all kinds of narration. You'll hear that Maine accent, I'm sure, time and time again. And you learn really every aspect of what's involved in being a lobster fisherman or fisherwoman. So you learn a lot, you see a lot, because they'll demonstrate, how they have to bait the traps and then pull the traps, and all the really very strict rules and regulations that Maine has to really secure the lobster population. So that's a good time. After that, we head a little bit north to Kennebunkport. We call the area the Kennebunks because it includes Kennebunk, Kennebunkport, separate little town, Arundel, and a little fishing village called Cape Porpoise. So, excuse me. So I get to that area. You have time on your own. It's another very quaint town. I think what really put Kennebunkport on the map was when former President George Bush became president, and it would be reported that, he's off in his summer home in Maine. So generations of his family have spent time in Maine, and there's a beautiful summer estate, which we go by. So after lunch and shopping on your own and enjoying the town, then we do a step-on tour. So we get out of the little town and drive along the coastline. We go by the Bush estate. We go by rocky coast and sandy beaches, and a lot of interesting history of the area. So that's a lot of fun. And then it's a return to the hotel with a little bit of time to freshen up before you head out again for a lobster dinner. A lobster dinner with entertainment, I might add. So it's a traditional Maine lobster dinner. Keep in mind, that you do get the whole lobster. And the staff is wonderful. If you're not quite sure what to do or don't want to do it, there are people there that can help you. And the entertainment is a lot of fun. So that will be a full day. And then back to the hotel. Okay, day 3. So after breakfast at Jonathan, there's a stop at the Ogunquit Playhouse, which you can see in the photo there. And that's like practically, it's less than a quarter mile from the hotel. It's practically adjacent to it. It's right there. And it does have a very interesting history. So you learn all about that. After that, we go south to a lighthouse with 2 names. So most people refer to this lighthouse as Nubble Light, but its formal name is the Cape Nettic Lighthouse, because the town that it's in is Cape Nettic. And so it's on this rocky coast, and it's one of the most beautiful lighthouses, one of the most photographed lighthouses in the country. And I'll just leave it there because there's something really interesting about it, but I don't want to tell you in case you go, because then
you have to book on the trip.
Might ruin the surprise. So I'll leave you wondering what that could be. So travel back to Ogunquit, and now there's time to spend in that village. By the way, the property, the Meadowmere, is a little less than a half-mile walk from town. So if you're a walker, that's not really long. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. The village, again, it's like another quintessential Maine town. But the village itself is not on the water. There's a river that goes through there. And so lots of fun places to look at there. Then it is off to the theater. So this year, the theater first performance, which opens the day that we will be there, and it's the Share Show. And they always do an incredible time. I don't know if anyone's on who a few years ago went on this trip, and the play was Jersey Boys that year. They have a lot of actors, actresses from Broadway who will come up here when again, it was started as a summer stock theater, and that's kind of what happened, is people would come up here where it was cooler. And Sally Struthers, you remember Sally Struthers from long ago, she has performed here most every year. And I'm probably going back to the late 70s or early 80s, but I did hear that this year she's not, she has some kind of a conflict. But anyway, a little bit about the theater. After the show, back to the hotel to freshen up before another wonderful dinner. This time it's at a restaurant called Clay Hill Farm. It's in the woods, very private wooded setting. And it's the first restaurant in the country that has been certified as a wildlife habitat and bird sanctuary. So there's, if you can imagine, there's lots of wildlife there, nothing to be afraid of, but beautiful wedding, beautiful place. They hold lots of weddings there, and the food is very good. And that's day 3. Okay, the next morning, back to Jonathan's again for breakfast, and you're on the road. You're on the road again.
Wow.
By the way, that is a photo of Nubble Light.
Excellent. Excellent. It sounds like a great trip. Would you guys all agree? Does anybody have any questions for Nancy about this trip specifically? We've got other trips coming up that we'll talk about, and then we can do general questions. But does anybody have any questions for Nancy about this trip? I have an answer to a question that I haven't heard yet, but I want to tell you guys, Nancy refers to a step-on guide. So a lot of you may know what that means, but for those of you who don't, we call Nancy a step-on guide because literally she steps onto the bus and becomes our guide. So it's a step-on guided sightseeing tour, or for short, step on. So if you hear that wording, the phrase step on, it means a step on guided tour. So the more you know.
Thanks. Or another way often is referred to as a local tour guide.
Yes, yes.
Same thing.
She is our expert local tour guide, that is for sure. All right, so we're gonna keep going because we're doing fantastic. And we're gonna talk about Maine Moosin. Before we talk about Maine Moosin, let me just say one more thing about Ogunquit for those of you that may have just joined. It is leaving next week. It is sold out. It's a very popular tour. And if you want to join the wait list for this year, you can. However, if you're interested in going for 2023, give us a call and we'll get you on the wait list for when that trip is ready to be booked. And I also see a question that came into the chat. Are there non-seafood options at the lobster dinners? And I know the answer is yes, but I'll let Nancy answer that as well.
Okay, yes, absolutely. There always are going to be options. So on the trip we just did, it's like barbecue chicken or a vegetarian dish. So
yeah,
there's always something else to choose from. Yeah,
absolutely, because we know not everybody eats lobster, so we do always make sure. Again, this one is barbecue chicken or a vegetarian dish. All right, so the Maine Moosin trip features Rangeley and Portland, and it departs in June. It's a 5-day trip. It includes 7 meals. So this is a more outdoorsy type of trip, and I will let Nancy tell us all about it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, for anyone who loves nature and peace and quiet and remote little towns, this is the tour for you. This takes us to a different part of Maine, Rangeley, which I'll talk about when we get there. But first, on day 1, again, you travel not to Ogunquit this time, you come a little further north, and the overnight is in South Portland, Maine. And we're at so the first night, yes, is at the Best Western Mary Manor. there for one night. And that lobster dinner is at the hotel. And yes, and there are always options.
Yes, in this case, it looks like baked stuffed chicken breast or a vegetable Alfredo.
Right. Kind of looked like a drunken lobster, didn't it?
It does.
Maybe they didn't boil it in water.
Good question.
Okay, so the next morning, breakfast is right there at the hotel. And then it's off to a little Maine town called Gray, Maine. It was named after a man named Jean Grey. You may have heard of him.
Yeah, he's on our call. Jean Grey.
See that? Jean, did you like that one? You did. Okay. So that's Jeanstown. Anyway, what we do there is visit the Maine Wildlife Park, which is really a great place for people of all ages. Yep, they have a lot of kids that go there, but there are also lots and lots of adults. And that is where there's a guaranteed moose sighting. The wildlife park takes care of all different kinds of animals who, for one reason or another, can't be returned to their natural habitat. Either like they've been orphaned, they've been abandoned, or they've been injured. So they take them in, care for them, and are there for everyone to see. And that's in a sort of in a pine forest. That's a pretty spot. And they have a moose. So it's a guaranteed sighting. Yeah, it is behind a fence, but it's still a moose. And everyone always enjoys that. Okay, so after the wildlife park, it's on to a little college town called Farmington, Maine, and that's for lunch on your own. Cute little town. After lunch, it's about an hour ride to Rangeley, Maine. It wouldn't surprise me if many of you are not familiar with Rangeley. Most of the time when people think or talk about Maine, they think of coastal towns because that's where most folks tend to go. And Rangeley is about a couple hours from the coast. It's in the western part of Maine. It's in the mountains, and it's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. If you don't, I have to say a couple of things about Rangeley because it is off the beaten path. And if you have to have Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's, you're not going to like it because they don't have any of those places. They're all independently run establishments. No traffic light in the town. They do have stop signs. So we're there for 2 nights. We stay at the Rangeley Inn. The Rangeley Inn has been around a very long time and has been renovated and is the only old inn of its size that is still standing in Rangeley. So dinner that night is right there at the hotel, at the inn. They have a beautiful dining room. And it is on water a little bit. In the backyard is Haley Pond. And it's walking distance into the town. It really is in the town. It's on the edge of town. So that's Rangeley. And that's the second day. Okay. Day 3, breakfast is served right there at the inn. Then we're off to visit the Maine Forestry Museum, which is quite a place. It also has been not really renovated, but it's been improved upon. Over the years, it just seems that they've been raising more and more money and they just improve the museum a lot. What you learn about through a very interesting and humorous presentation is the history of logging in Maine. And there's a lot to say about that. But you're not going to hear it unless you go on the tour. Okay.
You gotta leave them wanting more.
So that's first thing in the morning. Then it's back to the town. And what's nice about this tour, I think, is that it's very relaxed. It isn't as if there's things, right on top of one another, but you're in this beautiful place. There's time to relax and enjoy where you are. So there is that free time. And for lunch, Then we go to the next town. Next town is Ogunquit, Maine. It's just about 5 or 6 miles away. And the stop there is at the Rangeley Outdoor Sporting Museum, Outdoor Heritage Museum. They have changed their name, so that is why I made a mistake. Okay, so now it's the Outdoor Heritage
It's a long
Sporting
name.
Museum.
Is why
It is,
that's
it
the
is.
bottom
It's
line.
a very long name.
Too many words.
And so while the museum in the morning talked about the days of logging and hard work that everyone did, this museum also, well, it talks about more about the people who came to Maine to enjoy the beauty and enjoy the fishing and the hunting, which is what it was basically known for. So there's a presentation. There are all kinds of things in the museum. Wonderful staff. So you listen to a presentation, and then there's another video they show, and then you can wander around and ask questions. It's the kind of place you could stay for forever if you were really into fishing and hunting, but it's a very fascinating history. All right, we leave there and we go to one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's called the Height of Land. If you see in the photo, it was a little cloudy day when that photo was taken, but it's this amazing overlook where you see lakes, islands, mountains, and that just goes on and on forever. So if you're looking, like these people are all turned around looking straight ahead, it's just mountain range after mountain range after mountain range, and many, many lakes, very large lakes, like Rangeley Lake is the big lake, obviously, in Rangeley. These are, miles and miles long. So after the yoga class at Height of Land, just to calm everyone, no, I'm kidding, but you can do yoga if you like. Then it's off back to the inn for a barbecue dinner. After dinner, a different guide meets us, a registered Maine guide who knows all about moose. And it's on the bus. So everybody's back in the bus. And the guide is, narrating, taking us down these roads where, moose are typically found. So you get a great education about moose, and you're going to see, I know we're always going to see one, even if it's for a little bit. And sometimes they stand there and you have to leave because, the mosquitoes are too bad and the moose is still standing there. So that's a real adventure.
Excellent. How long is that adventure?
It's an hour and a half.
Perfect. Great.
All right. So then the next day, again, it's breakfast at the inn, back on the bus, and travel to Portland. Portland is Maine's largest city, and it's a wonderful spot. The popular downtown area is called the Old Port. It's a working waterfront. There's tons of shops, restaurants, boutiques, museums. So there's time there to enjoy being in Portland and having lunch. Then it's off, not a long way, a short drive over to what is called Bug Light Park. And you're probably thinking, Bug Light Park, what's that all about? Well, this is this is a park that has 2 names, a lighthouse that has 2 names as Nubble. So the original name of this lighthouse, which is known as both the Portland Breakwater Lighthouse and Bug Light. And it's a cute little lighthouse. It's only 26 feet high. Great views. They have a memorial there of the Liberty ships, of the bow of the Liberty ships, as that was the site of one of the country's locations during World War II, where the Liberty ships were made. And you also can walk out to the lighthouse. So again, just more scenery, different scenery. You get a great view of Portland skyline from there. And then it's leaving Portland, heading south toward the hotel with a stop in Scarborough, Maine at Len Libby Chocolates. Now this, of course, has a moose theme. So we've seen the moose behind the fence. We would have seen another moose, and this time it's a chocolate moose. there's Lenny. His name is Lenny, and he is 1,700 pounds of chocolate. So that's a fun place. It's a, you know, they sell candy and other things, and they have a nice video that shows how Lenny was made and maintained and so forth. Okay, then it's on to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, just over the border from Maine. Portsmouth is a lovely town. You're there for one night at the Holiday Inn, which is a very nice property. Dinner is on your own in the village. And the next day, then it's homeward bound on day 5.
That
There's
looks like Bug.
that's Bug Lighthouse right there.
I recognized it from how you described it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you as our tour expert, and I've been to so many of our tour locations, but I have not been to Maine. So having Nancy is super important to me as the head of our tour division, because I need a local expert like Nancy to show me, you know, what to do in Maine, what the best sites are, et cetera, et cetera. So it's on my bucket list. I've been to Maine as a child, but as an adult, I have not been back to Maine. So
well, you're due
I'm
for
due.
a visit.
100%. 100% right. So our Maine Moosin trip again is June 19th through 23rd. The tour director for this trip is Penny Rudolph. You all know Penny. We have 23 people already booked, so it's about half full. So if you're thinking about going, now's a good time to book because we still have room, but it will likely fill up. Any other questions about the Maine Moosin trip?
I did that trip a few years ago as a passenger, and it was really enjoyable. So I've done a number of trips to Maine, but that one we actually passengered. And it's so beautiful up there. I love going there. You really should get back there, Sandy.
All right. I got it. I got my orders. Joyce, unmute yourself and tell us what you were going to say.
Not only that, but you do see moose when was it Christine or Betty? I went several years ago, and you know, one of the things they would tell you on the bus is that we'll see it, the moose show up, and they do. And what's interesting is that they are very entertaining because they run up, they stop, then they come right up to the bus and they look at you like, so what are you doing today? And it was just amazing. We had the best time ever.
How nice.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Joyce. Yes.
Excellent.
Good time.
Excellent. All right. We are off the moose topic and we are talking national parks now. We have a wonderful tour called Maine's Rocky Coast that features Acadia National Park. Lots of people call it Arcadia National Park. There is no R, it's just Acadia National Park. And this is where you get the most breathtaking views of all, from what I've heard. Now I have not been there. We have a departure in July and a departure in August. This is a 5-day trip, 7 meals, and you can see the pricing here. So I am going to let Nancy take it away.
Okay, so this tour is going to go further northeast up the coast. The first day, again, is going to be a travel day, staying overnight for one night at the Best Western. Dinner is included at the hotel, as is breakfast. And then we start the ride up the coast, as we say. So that tour also gets to go to Bug Light, take a look at that pretty spot. And then it's on to Rockland. Rockland, Maine is in mid-coast Maine, and it's known as the lobster capital of the world. It's come a long way. When I first went to Rockland, in the 80s, I want to say, it was a very busy working place. Lots of lobstermen. They didn't really want tourists there. They got in the way, and these people had work to do. Over the years, it has changed quite a bit. But it's still the lobster capital of the world, and they have all different kind of special events there. So if you're into art, it's the home of the Farnsworth Art Museum, which for the most part is a collection of Wyeth pieces. So that's nice. There's also a Maine Lighthouse Museum. The museums are not included in the tour, but you have enough time there that if you'd like to visit, you can. And then very picturesque ride the back way to Camden, Maine, which is another quintessential Maine town. So you go there and then continue on to the Camden Hills State Park. Drive to the top of Mount Batty. And if you look at the photo in the lower right corner, that's the view from the top of Mount Batty. The tower, that's where that's located, at the top of Mount Batty. And, you know, you're overlooking Penobscot Bay, full of islands. You can see the little town of Camden. You can see a lot of the sailboats in the harbor there. That's what those little white things are. And the sky is magnificent. And, you know, to just sit there and take it all in is wonderful. Okay. So after Mount Batty in the park, drive a short distance to a little town called Lincolnville. And that's where dinner is. This is a lobster dinner in a restaurant that is literally right on the beach, Lincolnville Beach. And so there's a little time if you want to walk around the beach and, you know, just kind of see the area, you can do that. And then dinner is served. And again, there is always an option other than lobster, but it's the whole lobster dinner again. And after that, travel to Bangor, Maine. And that will be a stop for 2 nights at the Best Western White House Inn. So the next morning, it's off to Bar Harbor. So arriving in Bar Harbor, you get to visit the Abbey Museum, which is really a wonderful place. It shows and tells the story of the native folks who lived here many years ago. And, you know, they had people to interpret what's there. It really just is a wonderful place. Bar Harbor is really lucky to have that. You have time in Bar Harbor to look around, lots of shops. It's noted for all the shops. It's also known for the number of cruise ships that stop there. However, the town of Bar Harbor is working to limit the number of cruise ships because it gets kind of crazy there. Anyway, so it's busy, hustle bustle. There's a couple of nice parks, a couple of walks along the water. So you have time there to enjoy that. And then after that time and after you found lunch, a step-on guide will meet the bus for a guided tour of Acadia National Park. And as Sandy said, it's just like, you know, one drop dead beautiful scene after the next. It includes going to the top of Cadillac Mountain, which during part of the year is the first place to see the sunrise. So that's it's about a 3-hour tour. You do get off the bus a couple of times. And then back to Bangor, where dinner is at a local restaurant. And then, okay.
I just,
yeah, these are some great photos.
yeah.
Of the park. There's Thunder Hole. Thunder Hole is where you see the water splashing up when the tide is just right. The noise that it makes when the water crashes sounds thunderous. And there's some, you know, ponds and parks in the park.
Beautiful photos.
Yeah,
Beautiful photos.
great place. Okay, so the next day, leave Bangor after breakfast at the hotel, drive to Portland. So again, there's free time to look around and time to have lunch. And then there is a cruise on Portland Discovery's Lighthouse Lovers Cruise, it's a narrated tour that goes around the islands in Casco Bay. Casco Bay is right there where Portland sits. Very informative and a lot of fun. The speakers that they have, you know, they weave a lot of humor into their story. So it's really well enjoyed. And then it's continuing south to Portsmouth again for an overnight. And as before, you know, there for one night, dinner is on owned in the city of Portsmouth. And then the next day it's homeward bound again.
Homeward bound, homeward bound. All right. Great job talking about Maine's Rocky Coast. There was a question, it might have been about this trip, but let's take this to not only the Maine's Rocky Coast, but Maine Moosin and Maine Ogunquit. The question is, what is the walking level of walking difficulty? You know, on a, you know, would you say low, medium, lots of walking? How would you describe, let's start with this Rocky Coast trip.
Okay, the Rocky Coast trip. When you're in Bar Harbor, you can walk as much or as little as you want to. There are many benches throughout the town, and it's a very small village. It's maybe 6 or 7 blocks long with parks. So if you'd rather sit in a park and just enjoy being there and see the sights, you can do that. If you know, you don't have to walk on the shore path, and you don't have to walk through the entire town. So there's definitely choice on that one. And same thing when you're in Portland. There's a lot to discover in Portland. But again, if you don't want to do a lot of walking, you can stay very close to where the bus will drop you off and find lunch. There are restaurants within a block, within less than a block. And as I said, there are also, you know, places to sit outside. So it's up to you if you want to kind of stay in the smaller area or venture out.
What about the in Portland, the cobblestone streets?
Okay. Yeah, so Portland does have these charming cobblestones. So you don't want to wear any heels. No, sneakers, flat shoes are best. They're not on every single street. The main road along the waterfront is paved. There are no cobblestones. The cobblestones are on some of the shorter blocks. So you can make, if that is of concern, you can make your way around them.
Okay. So it sounds like, and Christine and Jean, Betty, chime in. It sounds like there's not a lot of walking on these trips, that it's really for folks of any that can have any level of walking.
Well, on the moosing tour, when you're at the Maine Wildlife Park, there again, you know, there's some walking if you want to see the whole park, but you're on your own, so you can pace yourself. You don't have to, you know, and if you're okay with not making it around to every single exhibit, you know, for every animal, that's fine. It's in a pine forest, so there's shady places to sit. Restroom is there, and you know, there's a comfortable place to sit.
Great.
I would say from where the bus drops us off to where the moose is, that's probably that's the longest distance to walk. And let's see, I would
have
say
your guaranteed moose sighting. That's the one.
that's a guaranteed moose sighting. Yeah. Let's see. So I would say it's maybe 1/4 mile. Help me out, Jane. Does that sound about right? Yeah.
Okay.
And again, there are benches along the way.
It's really not that far.
No.
It's a paved area. I've seen people with walkers going right down, and it's a moderate hill, so it's a very smooth hill, so up and down, and the walking was really not an issue that I could see. And we had people with walkers on my trip.
Yes. Yeah,
Got it.
thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, it is. It's not as if you're walking over rocks and tree roots, on a dirt path. It's very nicely paved and easy to manage.
Joyce, does that answer your question? Well, I'll let you, if you want to unmute and let us know. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. The Maine's Rocky Coast trip, as I said before, has 2 departures, July and August. The July 10th departure already has 40 people on it. So that one's pretty well booked. That's Lucille is escorting that trip. And then the August 21st trip, that only has 12 people booked. So there's more room in August. And again, Lucille is escorting that trip as well. So little bit of room left in July, lots more room left in August. Any other questions related to the Maine's Rocky Coast? You guys are great. All right, time to talk about our final tour of the night, Majestic Maine. This is our fall foliage timed tour, late September, mid-October, time to see the leaves changing color of some sort. Of course, Mother Nature will do her own thing, but we try to bring you to Maine during the fall foliage time period. This is a 4-day trip with 6 meals, and you can see the prices there. And I will let Nancy take it away.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I would say that fall is one of the most popular seasons in Maine. So for the past few years, the height of the changing of the leaves has been about mid-October. It used to be earlier. Now it can change again. So as Sandy said, you don't know, you're going to see some color for sure. But that's the way it has been. But we can't depend on the way things have been because it's constantly changing. Okay, so this tour spends 3 nights in Ogunquit. We're back to Ogunquit at the Meadowmere. And day 1, again, you're there in a day for dinner at Jonathan's, which is, like I said, right next to the property. Okay, this tour, the next day on day 2, after breakfast on the bus and drive to Portland for a tour of Portland. After the tour, there's another cruise, the Lighthouse Lobsters cruise, which I mentioned is a fully narrated tour. The photo that you see there on the bottom, that lighthouse in the background is Portland Headlight, which is one of the, well, it's the oldest lighthouse in the state of Maine. And it's a very popular one. They say it's also one of the most photographed. It's also the site of, many weddings and reunions, and it's a very expansive park. So you get to see Portland Headlight from the water and all kinds of wildlife too. So after the cruise, you have time on your own back in Portland's old port. Following that, go to Bloch Park. So you can, in the southern part of Maine, you can see, that there is some overlap. So if you're on one tour and you think, well, gee, you don't want to miss something, there's a good chance if you look at that if another tour stops in Portland, you're going to do a similar thing. So back to Bloch Park and then to Glen Libby. And then let's see here. Okay. You have a little bit of time at the hotel after that, and you have a lobster dinner.
Every Maine tour with Starr has a lobster dinner. Have you guys figured that out yet? Because how could you go to Maine if you like lobster without having a lobster dinner? So,
and this is the place that also has entertainment.
excellent.
So it's a lot of fun. Okay, day 3. This one spends time in the morning in Kennebunkport. So after breakfast, you drive a short distance to Kennebunkport, and you have let's see, you have time to look around, to see the sights. That's the wedding cake house that you see there. There's a story that goes with that, but we don't have enough time for me to tell you, so yeah, I guess you'll have to go on the tour. Anyway, and then the photo that you see on the bottom, that was taken at Noble Lighthouse, looking across that little channel to that very large building, which everyone wants to know, what is that? That must be a resort. It's not. It's actually a private home. There's a lot of wealth in the southern part of Maine. It's not characteristic of the whole state, but you do see many, many beautiful places in southern Maine. And then back to the hotel for a little time to refresh before dinner at a local restaurant. Oh, look at that. So next morning, breakfast at Jonathan's and homeward bound once again.
Excellent. That's a great trip. That's a great trip. Short, sweet, 4 days, lots to do. We have 2 departures and they usually do sell out. We're only in the beginning of May. So the first departure on September 25th has 5 people booked. And the second departure on October 16th has 5 people booked. And Christine is escorting the September 25th departure and Penny is escorting the October 16th departure. So there you have it. That is, that's our 4 Maine tour assortment to show you. So hopefully you guys got a good overview about our Maine trips. Does anybody have any questions about the fall trip that we call Majestic Maine or any of the other trips? Excellent. You guys, if you think of something and you want to ask, that's great. Of course, let's just show you if you want to book. There are 2 ways to book your trip. The first is by calling Deb Ayers, and the second is by booking online. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, we are pretty busy in the office. So if you leave a message, we will call you back. We promise. So thank you for your patience in advance. And I have a winner for our $25 gift card, as we like to give away a gift card at every Tour Tuesday. And the winner is Sarah Fletcher. Sarah Fletcher. Let's see, is Sarah, I see, there she is, she's waving. Congratulations, Sarah. Deb will send you a note tomorrow so you can figure out where you want to save your $25 on whatever trip you want to go on, your Starr gift card.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Before I talk about what we're doing on the next Tour Tuesday and then a special event, I want to especially thank Nancy Bloch for presenting tonight, for joining us, for preparing with me and sharing all of the wealth of knowledge that she has about Maine. So thank you so much, Nancy. We appreciate you, your partnership on tour, before the tour, on Tour Tuesday, all of the things that you do to support us. We're very thankful.
Oh, well, I thank you. I thank you. Star's great to work with. And as I said, come to Maine.
I think you made it enticing enough that we'll get lots of bookings. So our next Tour Tuesday is June 7th. Oh, go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Nancy is an absolute pleasure to have on the bus with us. And I'm not just saying that because she acknowledged my town, but you know, thank you, Nancy. It's a pleasure seeing you again. But you are an absolute pleasure.
Yes,
Thank
she
you,
is.
Jean.
Yes,
Thanks a
she
lot.
is. She is a highly rated guide for us. Like I said, our next Tour Tuesday is June 7th. We will be talking about our Branson Missouri trip featuring St. Louis, so Branson and St. Louis, as well as our Kentucky birthday bash. I know there's lots of you that want to hear about the Kentucky birthday bash that primarily goes to Louisville, but we do all of the cool areas in Kentucky, lots of horsing around on that trip. But before June 7th, we have a Zoom anniversary party on May 11th. And if you haven't signed up yet, I hope you do. Go to the Starr Tours website and there will be a pop-up that comes up that reminds you to sign up for our Zoom anniversary party. My mom and dad, my husband, and I will all be hosting, and we're going to do some fun trivia, and we're going to interview my dad and find out some really cool things about Starr. We'll of course do some giveaways and some other fun stuff that I'm not going to tell you because you have to come and find out. So May 11th, mark your calendar. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in, oh my gosh, a week and a few days. So with that, I want to thank the tour directors for attending. And then of course, especially, I want to thank all of our tour guests, all of you here that spent your Tuesday night with us for an hour. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you traveling with us. We appreciate everything about you. And we're so glad that you're part of our Starr community. So until May 11th, Zoom anniversary party, and our next tour Tuesday on June 7th, I'll see you soon. Thanks everybody for coming.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.